Okay, well, thank you everybody for attending. Welcome to our LinkedIn workshop. We're very lucky and fortunate to have Chris Gramlich with us today. Chris works with LinkedIn Learning and can share some insights into how you all can leverage your LinkedIn profile and really make it stand out and best represent you as you are developing your brand and communicating it out. My name is Hillary and I'm from the Career Center here at DePaul. I'm going to turn things over to Chris now, but I'll be happy to jump back on at the end to answer any general Career Center questions, as well as share just a little bit more about what we do. So with that said, I'm going to turn things over to Chris, and I will, as she's requested, be in the chat, monitoring any questions you may have that you want to put in there. So thank you, Chris. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here. Hold on, I'm just trying to get the screen to be shared right. There we go. Perfect. Excited to be here. I'm always happy to come and present at DePaul. So I have a long history with DePaul. I'm a double demon. So I got my undergrad and grad from DePaul, and I also worked there for 18 years before coming over to LinkedIn. So super excited to present today. And today we're going to do something called a student's introduction to LinkedIn or LinkedIn Learning, or otherwise known as rocking your profile. Couple housekeeping things. If you feel brave enough and you want to shout questions out, feel free to do that as we move through the presentation. If not, feel free to type it in the chat and Hillary will shout them out to me as we go. First thing up at the top, you'll see that there is a URL and I will drop that in the chat at the end of the session. But please go ahead and activate your LinkedIn Learning account if you have not already done so. Every faculty, staff, and student at DePaul University gets a LinkedIn Learning account, which allows you access to over 16,000 learning courses. So definitely take advantage of that. So quickly, I'm just going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn's mission. So our mission is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. And from your perspective as a student, our mission is to help you leave your education and go into the workforce and start building out a professional network and connect to the world's professionals so that you can start building your career as you go. I like to start with this particular image because I think we all think that we're going to start at the bike and end at the checkered flag. And we've all lived through the pandemic, so we know that is not exactly how life goes. Life is more about getting over the humps and out of the valleys. But that's okay because how we get through those life's challenges is what makes each of us unique and gives us our own personal experiences. And we can leverage those personal experiences and those skills that we've learned during those times to help make us stand out as the best person for a particular job that we're going for. So, where do we jumpstart our career? Obviously, I'm here to talk about LinkedIn and LinkedIn Learning, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about other social networks in comparison to a professional network like LinkedIn. First, other social networks, this is where we're going to really find your personal life. And you'll notice on the left, we have Aaron Bush. We also have that same Aaron Bush on the right. And you'll notice the difference instantly between his two profiles. You'll notice on the left, his profile picture is a little bit more funny. The pictures that we're seeing, some are fun. That's going to be a lot more of our professional life. On the right, we're seeing our professional. I'm sorry, the left is our personal, the right is our professional. You'll see here the headshot is more of Aaron in a professional environment or a professional look, and that is what we're going for. The reason I shout this out early is that a lot of times when we post on social media, that's a quick post that we don't really think too much about. When we're building out our professional site and our professional brand, we want to actually think about what we're putting out there so that we're building our brand as we go. And that brand is something that we can be proud of and is going to help make us stand out when recruiters start looking at our profiles. So I like to talk about donuts in this vein to hammer this point home. If we were to talk about donuts on other social media sites, we would say things like, I like donuts, or here's watch me eat a donut, or here's a cool picture of my donut place, or I went to this great new donut shop. However, and you'll even notice as I switch the slide, the photo's even going to change. When we talk about donuts on LinkedIn, we're going to talk about it in a more professional vein. I have top production skills in donuts and sales. I have a marketing experience in marketing donuts. I have 3 years experience making donuts. I'm looking for a job at a donut company. And you'll notice even just by that subtle shift in the photo behind this particular slide, we went from having fun with donuts on the previous slide, we're all having fun eating donuts, to a more professional environment where we're consuming donuts. Again, putting our best foot forward is really the goal of our Rocking Your Profile session. So why LinkedIn? Well, LinkedIn is a powerful, powerful place to be. We have over 800 million members globally, and we're constantly adding members. We have 39 million students and recent graduates represented on the system. over 58 million companies, and 11 million job openings, and 120,000 schools represented. So LinkedIn is the place you want to be because that's where everyone is currently at for their professional profiles. This is where recruiters come. This is where you're going to build that professional network. And the millions of members and the millions of companies probably make sense because people are looking for jobs. But why would schools be present on LinkedIn? There's two major reasons that schools are present on LinkedIn and you want to connect with them on LinkedIn. The first being obviously schools are trying to drive business. They're trying to get their brand out there so that people will want to come and attend their school. Secondly, they're on LinkedIn because they want to build alumni affinity. Alumni affinity is great for a bunch of things. For the university, if they have a strong alumni affinity, there's easier placement for students upon graduation and more likely to get reciprocated donations back to the institution. For you as a student, what does this mean? This means that you have a built-in network that's easy to harvest through LinkedIn through the alumni tool. Simply by putting your school as DePaul University, that's going to allow you to connect with other members of LinkedIn who have attended your institution and who might have even gotten the degree that you're currently going for. Before I jump into using LinkedIn, I just want to see if there's any questions about any of that.
Nothing in the chat right now.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about using LinkedIn in two ways. First, building your brand, which is building out your profile and making it the best possible. The second is the next step. How do we leverage that brand to get hired or to perhaps even start a company? I know a lot of people are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs. So I think it's important to think of LinkedIn as a great way to start connecting with potential investors and clients as well. So, why do we want to build our professional brand? That's necessary because we want to start getting our thought leadership out there so that we can get noticed by future bosses, recruiters, investors, customers, and even clients. We want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward. We're starting to comment on things that we have passionate about, things that we know about, and that we're following things that are top of mind in the industry we want to go into. So that as people start looking through your profile and looking through what you're commenting on, they can see that you have thought leadership that will make you the best candidate for that job. So we talked earlier about all of the millions of members and the millions of companies, but another amazing stat is 9 out of 10 company recruiters use LinkedIn, so you should too. So we want to make sure that we're putting our resume and our profile out where recruiters are going to find it. And LinkedIn, right now, 9 out of 10 companies are leveraging LinkedIn to search for those positions that they have open. So we want to make sure that you're building out your profile correctly. Now, first plug for LinkedIn Learning. Like I said, you have access to that at the university. I'm going to talk about the why. Why do we do things on LinkedIn the way that we do? Why should we have certain things in our profile? The how is going to be covered in a course called LinkedIn for Students. It's on your LinkedIn Learning, so you simply search for LinkedIn for Students, and it will take you step by step through how to build a profile and what buttons to click and how to add in different sections. Today, I'm going to talk about the top 5. These are just 5 out of the many sections, but I'm going to throw in a few bonuses as well. First things first, 75% of hiring managers look at a candidate's profile to learn more about them. So they might have that resume in front of you, but they're going to LinkedIn to find out more about you. So you want to make sure that you're building out your profile to give them as much information as possible. And these aren't recruiters. We know recruiters are there, not at 9 out of 10, but 75% of those hiring managers, these are the decision makers, are checking out profiles. So we want to make sure that we're telling them as much as we can about ourselves. 5 must-have profile sections to start with: education, photo, experience, volunteer experience, and skills. First and foremost, foundation of your career, foundation of your profile is going to be your education. 10 times more likely to get a view on average if you list a university or college for your education. So you want to make sure that you're adding DePaul University. You want to make sure that you're putting the degree you're getting, and please make sure you are putting the right degree that you are earning. And you want to put in any sort of major or specialty degree that you're getting. So, for example, in this case, this particular person attended Indiana University. They got a bachelor's of science in business management. Make sure that as you're putting this up there, you're confirming that you're getting a BA or a BS or an MS or an MFA, whatever you're getting. Make sure you're putting the right degree up there. This is also a place where you can put your expected graduation date. So if you're attending this presentation, you're graduating in June, put expected graduation June 2023. If you're not graduating to next year, put that on there so recruiters know when you're going to be ready to enter the workforce full time. This is also a great thing to think about as you're moving through your career of how long you want to put your graduation date on your profile. Your profile is a living document, so things can come and go. Always include your education on there, but whether or not you want to include the dates you attended, that becomes up to you at a later date. Education is also a place that you can put any sort of clubs that you might have been inducted into or any honors that you might have earned. Any questions on education?
No questions in the chat yet, just yet.
Okay, perfect. So next we're going to talk about your profile photo. So this is the photo that appears at the top left of your profile. It's the one that appears in a little circle, and it's the one that appears when people search for your name. The why behind it, 21 times more likely to get a view if you have a photo as opposed to having our little kind of like blue guy up there. And the reason it's important to have a photo is because a lot of people are good with names, some people are good with faces, but everyone is good with both. So if you're meeting people out when you're networking or trying to build out your network, having your profile photo and your name there is going to make it easier for people to connect with you. Also, few rules of thumb. If you have a professional photo or if you had it taken or the university's brought people in to take it for you, that's great. If you haven't, a selfie is fine as long as we follow a few kind of key rules. One, you want to be alone. You want to be on a neutral background. It doesn't have to be stark white or beige. It can be a beautiful brick building on campus. There's lots of brick on the DePaul campus. It could be in front of some greenery, as long as your face is what's in frame and what's focused on. You also want to shoot from the shoulders up, and you want to be dressing for the job that you're going to apply for. For example, if you know that you're going for a career where the dress code is suits every day, I strongly suggest as you're starting out your career, your profile photo should show you in a suit. If you're going for a job that you know is a little bit more creative, you can be like Alexander here in this picture and do a little bit more business casual. Also, we want to be smiling. And this could be your natural smile with or without teeth, however you feel comfortable, but you want to look engaging. Think of the profile photo as a window into your profile. You want to look like someone that they want to have a conversation with. You want to look like someone they want to engage with. So you want to pull them into your profile pic. Also, last rule of thumb is anytime you make any drastic changes to your appearance, hair color, long, short, glasses, no glasses, whatever that appearance changer is going to be, you want to make sure that you update your profile picture so that your profile picture always matches how you're going to show up at a particular job interview. I like to think of it this way. On the dating apps, you want to make sure that your profile photo is exactly what they're going to get when they see you. The same goes with this. You want to make sure that you're using a current photo of what you look like so that when you show up, there's no confusion when you show up on the job interview. Any questions on the profile photo?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay. Bonus for this, the other photo that you can add onto your profile is the banner picture that shows up at the top of your profile across the top. This is where you can get a little bit more creative about your passions, about things of interest. So, say for example, you're a huge Chicago Bears fan, you could put a Chicago Bears picture of the field of Soldier Field up there. Well, at least for now, it's going to be Soldier Field. You could put a picture of that up there. You can even put a picture of you in front of that up there. However, keeping in mind, we're on a professional site. So we want to put our best foot forward. So perhaps not a bunch of your friends goofing off in front of Soldier Field, but maybe just you standing in front of Soldier Field, something like that. You can also get creative if you're great at photography, say you took a great vacation photo, something like that. If you're not good with pictures and you're not sure what to put up there, I always suggest checking out the Creative Commons. The Creative Commons, if you're not aware of it, is a place where you can find media that can be leveraged in different ways and it's already been copyright protected. So there are different photos up there and it will let you know what copyright has been put on that and how you can leverage that particular image. So it's a great place not only for your profile, but any sort of images that you might need for, say, like presentations or things like that in the future. Stock photos that have already been given rights to use in a different way. Next thing I'm going to talk about is professional experience. This is where you're going to spend the bulk of time on your profile, and this is where we're really going to do the most research on our profile. So the why, 36 times more likely to be found by a recruiter if you have at least 2 positions. What can you list here? Internships, summer jobs, part-time jobs. If you're working with, say you're in chemistry and you're working with someone, a professor in the lab and doing research there, you can put all of that within your professional experience. However, this is our mobile app. We don't simply want to just say Director of Project Management at Gold Phase Solar. It doesn't tell me anything about what you accomplished. You want to go in and you want to go and describe exactly what you did. And this is probably one of the biggest differences between your resume and your profile. On your resume, I'm sure you've all heard this, it's action word, what you accomplished, or what you did, what you accomplished, and then maybe was there a cost savings? Did it drive up value to the company? Did you increase marketing by however many percentage points? That's typically how you write it on a resume. And that's because you're stuck to that 1 to 2 page resume like limit. There's no limit on the profile. You can get as verbose and as detailed as you want. You can speak with bullet points. You can speak in paragraph form. You could do a little bit of both. But what do you say about what you accomplished? This is where we're doing the research. We're going to look up job descriptions of jobs we think we might be applying for. So in this case, he's a director of project management. They're probably going to look for project management jobs. We're going to read through 2 to 3 to 4 of those job descriptions, and we're going to highlight keywords that show up in every single one. And there's going to be keywords and there's going to be skills that are going to be universal across pretty much most of the job descriptions you're going to read. Things like being able to publicly speak, customer service, working with people, people management. In this case, obviously, project management. They might even identify particular project management strategies that you have to be familiar with, or project management softwares. You want to highlight all of those on the job description so that you can make sure you're weaving those into your past experiences. Now, you want to be authentic. So if you don't have any experience with that particular project management software, we don't want to say we do. We'll get to that in a second. But we want to write all of our past experience to show how it made us the right person for the job we're applying for. Now, what if your jobs don't directly tie to what you're trying to apply for post graduation? That's when we think about transferable skills. So, say for example, you used to work at an ice cream shop in high school or over the summer. You could simply put worked at an ice cream shop. Doesn't tell me anything. But if you worked in an ice cream shop, odds are you probably dealt with people. That's customer service. You probably had to restock, or maybe you had to order ice cream, or maybe you were even in charge of marketing a new ice cream brand. That's marketing skills, that's people management skills, that's stocking skills. Maybe you closed out the till at the end of the night. That's financial skills. These are all things that you got experience from by working at the ice cream shop that we call transferable skills. You got them in a job that doesn't have a direct correlation or path to what you're looking for, but provided you with skills that make you the right person. Now, what if we look at job descriptions and every single job description says I need to be a master at Excel and I've never used Excel? That's where LinkedIn Learning is going to come in. You're going to look at LinkedIn Learning from DePaul and you're going to find Excel and you're going to take that course on LinkedIn Learning. And when you're done, you're going to get a certificate of completion and you're going to post it right to your profile from LinkedIn Learning, and it'll post that certificate and it'll add that skill as well. This is a great way, especially between now and graduation, or if you're not graduating to next year, if you're bored over the summer, do this research now. What are those key skills and key job experiences you need? And leverage LinkedIn Learning for free from the university to get those skills. Additionally, LinkedIn Learning just added something in called professional certifications. These are certificates that you used to have to go outside of LinkedIn Learning and pay an accrediting body for. Now you can get 10 of those within LinkedIn Learning as part of the license through DePaul. These are things like Microsoft certifications, like Azure certifications, things of that nature. You can go in and take those certifications through LinkedIn Learning and put those on your profile. It's a great summer project, identifying one of the 10. I think there's Zendesk for customer service. That's always a great one. Customer service is universal. You need to be able to work with people. So leverage LinkedIn Learning to build out that professional experience. I'm going to pause before I get to volunteer experience. Any questions or comments about that?
We do have a question in the chat.
hmm
And it is, can you please repeat the other places where we can take courses besides LinkedIn Learning? Any other sources you might recommend?
Um, so there's Coursera, which is one of our competitors. The only thing I would say with Coursera is you want to make sure that you're getting something from like an accredited body, like a university. Coursera allows anyone to build courses, I believe, and so you want to make sure that would be a great place to go and look. Some of the other big institutions offer things through that. I would also check out DePaul's certificate programs. So I think it's called CPE. They have certification programs in professional development. That's outside of a general degree that you would get from DePaul, but it focuses in, I think they focus like on project management, things like that. That would be a great thing to look at. I would also look at the job descriptions you're looking for. Are there any certificates that they're requiring for those particular jobs? So I'm going to go back to project management. There are a lot of project management certifications that you can get. I would suggest if you're thinking of going into that field, you start looking at those certifications now. Most of that prep work can be done in LinkedIn Learning. We have Cert Prep in there. Those accrediting bodies you do have to still go to and take the course, but that's a great place to look. And then also depending on your field. So I know, for example, like if you want to be a network engineer, Cisco has a whole certification realm that you go to Cisco for. We have certification prep within LinkedIn Learning for that, as well as the Microsoft. Microsoft offers a lot of certifications. If they're not available in LinkedIn Learning, we have the certification prep, and then you go to the accrediting body. Nice thing is being in Chicago, if most of you are coming to campus for classes, most of those certification bodies have testing centers within the city that you could go to that are easy to access.
Right. And there was a clarification there that they were thought you had said something about Microsoft certifications, but I believe you said that those were
Those
available.
are in LinkedIn Learning, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
there also is Microsoft Learn, which is an open platform that offers certifications as well. But if you want to get the actual certificate, you can get that through LinkedIn Learning.
fantastic. Two questions also about the availability of LinkedIn Learning for alumni. And I
Sure,
know that it requires a student status through the DePaul license.
it does.
There are other opportunities to.
Sure, there are other opportunities. So as long as you're still considered a student at DePaul, you'll have access to LinkedIn Learning through the DePaul license. Upon graduation, what you would want to look at is something called oh God, I just had it and it just went out my head. On LinkedIn, we have LinkedIn Pro. So like it's like a step up on just LinkedIn.com. You can actually sign up for that. LinkedIn Premium, that's what it's called. I knew it would come to me. You could sign up for LinkedIn Premium. What that gives you is access to LinkedIn Learning, like you would have at DePaul, as well as access to additional in-mails and a few other insights on LinkedIn that you don't get just through the general free LinkedIn.com account.
Thank you. And I think those are the questions we have for now.
Perfect. So jumping into volunteer experience, everything I said about that professional experience carries forward with volunteer experience. Every single thing. Doing the research, making sure you're putting it there. Well, you want to put it there because 41% of hiring managers consider volunteering as valuable as paid work experience. Reason is that if they know that you're giving your time for free, it must be something you're passionate about, and you're learning skills by volunteering. Even if you're not realizing you're learning skills, you're gaining skills through that volunteer experience. So you want to make sure you highlight what you've learned through that volunteer experience. So for example, when I used to work at DePaul, my team would volunteer once a month at the St. Vincent de Paul Soup Kitchen. So we would go to the soup kitchen and we would serve. I could simply put that there, but that's not what we did. One, as manager, I was responsible for making sure I had 7 people coming with me. That's people management. I had to make sure we were there on time and that we had everything set up. That's time management and resource management. We then had to serve everyone who came through the soup kitchen, customer service. And then we had to make sure that we not only cleaned the kitchen, but that we left it prepared for the next day and prepped anything that was needed. That's also time management and like organizational preparation. So those are things that I gained in experience, as did everyone who came with me to that soup kitchen. And even though we felt great about working at the soup kitchen, we also were learning a lot while we were at that soup kitchen. So we want to make sure we're highlighting that in your volunteer experience. So you want to get as detailed as possible as you can about whatever volunteer experience that you have. Last of the top 5 are skills. So skills help to raise your rankings for recruiter searches. If you have 5 or more skills listed, you're 17 times more likely to get a profile view. And honestly, it's easy to have 5 skills. That's nothing. Will you max out 20 skills upon graduation? Probably not if you're within the 18 to 24 range. If you're an older student, you might have up to those 20 to 50 skills that we can max out at. What do we think of as a skill? Anything that we might have learned through our degree, anything we might have acquired through professional experience, volunteer experience, life experience. Can you speak another language? Do you know how to do Java programming? Are you great at public speaking? Are you good at time management? Any of those skills you can actually put onto your profile. So what you want to think about is, what have you learned in class? Look at the syllabus. What are those key objectives for the syllabus? Those are the skills you're learning. If you're not sure, search up that content on LinkedIn Learning and see what skills that course has tied to it. Every course that we offer on LinkedIn Learning has at least one skill, if not more, attached to it. As you take those courses, you can then put those skills right onto your profile. And you want to make sure that you're keeping these up to date. So for example, if you do max out at our 50 skills, you want to make sure those skills are pertinent for that job that you're going for. If midlife you decide to change careers completely, those skills that you might need might be different. Also, keep in mind skills have a 5-year shelf life. What that means is that what you're learning now in 5 years might be obsolete, And what you need to know in 5 years might not even exist right now. So you want to make sure that you're constantly learning and you're keeping up with the skills for your job and for your career, and that you're updating those on your profile as well. Any questions on that? If you're confused about skills, everyone should be able to add video conferencing to their skills. That is an easy one. We have all lived through it. We know how to do that now.
It doesn't look like there's any new questions in the chat that I'm seeing.
Okay. So I'm going to pivot real quick from building the profile over to leveraging LinkedIn for jobs, but I want to give you.
Excuse me, there's one more question. I
Sure,
wrote it.
absolutely.
I don't know if Hillary can see it on chat.
You go ahead and ask your question.
Do you recommend taking project management through LinkedIn or other sources?
I would take the certification prep through LinkedIn because it's paid for by the university, so you don't have to pay for that cert prep. A lot of times you have to pay other institutions for that certification prep, and then I would identify which certificate you're going for and then just go and pay and get that certificate.
Okay, thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Last three things I want to talk about. Actually, there's four now. Four bonuses. One, you can update your LinkedIn URL, and I highly recommend you do this. And if we have time at the end, I'll show you how. When you create your LinkedIn profile, it's usually /in/ a version of your name and maybe some random letters and numbers. You want to clean it up so that it's just your name. So first name, first name, middle initial, however you can get it so it's just your name. You want to go ahead and clean that up. You want to make sure you're including that link to your profile in any sort of communication you're having with any recruiters or any hiring managers. It should be part of your email signature. And once you've built it out, you just add it to your email signature and it never needs to go away. Number two, you can now add how to pronounce your name. So when you go into LinkedIn, you could, once you've created your account, download the LinkedIn Learning app on your phone, and you can record how to say your name. My name is relatively easy to pronounce. There are many out there that are not. So go in and record how to say your name, because then recruiters and hiring managers are going to know how to address you. And it avoids that kind of like, how do you say your name? It puts everyone at ease. Flip side, as you're going to do your research of who you're interviewing with, if they've recorded their name, you know how to address them. Also, you can put your pronouns now on the profile. Strongly recommend that. And I strongly recommend you see if everyone else that you're meeting with has done it so you know how to address them as well. Again, makes it just easier to start off on the right foot, and everyone knows how to speak to everyone and how to say their name and what pronouns to use. Lastly, you can now put a profile video up there on your profile as well. This is a great way to introduce yourself to the world, to show your presentation and your speaking capabilities. I strongly recommend doing this. If you have not already taken the elevator pitch class on LinkedIn Learning, I strongly recommend you do it. It's by Todd Do-It. And the elevator pitch is the idea that you walk into an elevator and you meet the person you're interviewing with. What do you say to them? How do you interview them? Or how do you introduce yourself to them? That is the hardest question to answer in an interview. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Because it's a loaded question, because there's a lot you want to tell them, and you want to sound intelligent when you're telling them all about yourself. But you only have about 5 minutes to do that. And there's a lot you need to get across. So I strongly suggest you do all of that and check out that course. So now we've built out our amazing profile. Now we need to get hired and we need to look for a job. I like this slide because it highlights everything that we know from LinkedIn that you have to do to succeed as a student. Getting good grades, having fun, hopefully sleeping a little bit. Anything with a white check mark, though, is something LinkedIn can help you with. Choosing a career, researching companies, contacting and networking with people, searching for jobs, which then hopefully will ultimately lead to you changing the world. So I highlight this just to show you truly how powerful and how much you can accomplish on one website. And why? Why do we want to be able to accomplish all of this? Because you're in a world of work that is changing. Now, this is always true. The world of work is always changing, but right now you're living through a really interesting time in the workforce. You're coming out of the pandemic. You're coming out of something called the Great Reorganization or the Great Reshuffle, where people took inventory of their life and decided whether or not they liked doing what they were doing, and they're moving about the country. And then what did that lead into? That led into some crazy economic times where companies are letting people go. So you're not only competing with those people that you're graduating with, you're competing with people who have been in the field for years who either decided to change industries or have been downsized. I talked earlier about skills, 5-year shelf life. Know what those new and emerging skills are so that you can bring those skills to the company. And then disruption. Technology is usually the biggest disruptor. They're the ones that come in, technology changes the world. Biggest disruptor in the last 3 years was the pandemic. Biggest disruptor coming in the future, probably in the next year, AI. More specifically, generative AI. And if you're not familiar what that is, become familiar with it because everyone is talking about it. So understanding your competition, the skills needed, and what's disrupting the industries will help make you sound more informed when you go into those interviews. It's just a great way to understand how to speak to your skills and how you can help the company. Any questions on that?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay. So we're going to pivot a little bit to talk about the alumni tool. So we talked about how schools are on LinkedIn Learning and about why they're on LinkedIn Learning. And the alumni tool is a great place for you to start building out your network. So if you're not sure who to connect with, do a search for DePaul University and pull up the alumni tool. You can see where they live, what they're doing, what particular fields they're in, and then you could dig into those and find people in those fields who have been at DePaul, who are alumni who are now working, say, in research or IT or whatever. Maybe they're working at Flexus. And that allows you to find people to start building your connections with. And if you talk to them, alumni are usually more than willing to help. You get, jumpstart your career, and everyone likes talking about themselves. So of course they'll want to talk about how they got to where they got and give you some advice along the way. Start with the alumni tool. And the reason I say start there is because getting a referral is still the best way to get a job. About 85% of jobs are filled by employee referrals. It's the #1 way companies recruit. Reason is companies spend a lot of time, money, and effort to become an employer of choice. Every year, those lists: top best places for women to work, top best companies in tech, top best companies this way, that way. They spend a lot of time and money to be making those lists because they want to attract the best talent. And hiring someone is always a risk. And it's an expensive risk because a lot of money goes into recruiting people into the company. So when they place someone, they want to make sure they're successful. And who better to know if someone's going to be successful than someone who's already successful at that company? So that's why referrals are so important. If I go to LinkedIn and say, I know so and I think they'd be really good at doing what I'm currently doing as a CSM, a customer success manager, they know that I'm succeeding in my job. So if I think that they'll do a good job, then it's worth a second look. That's what you want to get. You want to get that foot in the door. And so we do that by starting to build out a professional network. You start with people you know, family, friends, teachers, mentors, people you might have, worked with in the community, and you ask them to connect. Please, oh, please, oh, please do not use the generic connect button on LinkedIn. It's there, it's easy, but please don't use it. Click the connect button and write a personal connection. It doesn't take very long. Even if you use the Find Connections feature within LinkedIn, which will make recommendations based on your education and things like that, always write a personal connection. In this case, Megan is reaching out to Professor Smith. Dear Professor Smith, I enjoyed your Econ 201 class last year. It inspired me to major in economics. Can I add you to my network? The reason you want to write a professional connection, even if you know the person, is to practice. And it's always great to give someone context. In this case, Professor Smith might be like, I teach 201 5 times a year. I teach it all the time. Oh, okay, Megan took it last year. I remember Megan. That's right. She got an A. Oh, that's a nice compliment. She liked my class so much she decided to major in it. And the simple ask, can I connect? That's really easy for Professor Smith to accept, right? Practice on your parents and your friends and your family. It might seem silly. Hey, Mom, I found your thing because I'm your kid. I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Again, it is silly, but it's practice because then you're practicing and you're getting in the habit of doing it. So when we get to the next group of people, the ones you don't know, you're already doing it and it's become second nature to you. In this case, we have Megan again. She's reaching out to Scott. Dear Scott, I found your profile through the Alumni Network. I'm a current student and would love to talk to you about your path to Amazon. It's a top choice employer for next year. Would you be available for a 20-minute phone conversation? It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point, but it's going to make Scott more likely to accept it because he understands what the ask is. Oh, we're both alumni, or she'll be alumni soon, so we'll have that in common. She wants to work at Amazon. She'd love to hear about how I got here. She wants 20 minutes of my time. That's a super easy yes, because 20 minutes is pretty okay to give in a day. Again, who you are, how you found them, what is your ask. Those are the 3 main things you want to do. So now practice. It's always safer to practice in a place where, if you fail, it's okay. So if you wanted to connect with me on LinkedIn, a good connection to me, once you find me, Christine Gramlich, would be You attended my presentation on what is today, May 2nd? I don't know, I've lost track of all days and times. I attended your session on May 2nd. I'd love to hear one good thing or one bad thing about my presentation. I'm always trying to make it, what you want to hear. What did you love? What did you hate? And then remind me I said I would connect if you did a good connection. And then you could connect with me on LinkedIn. And then if you ever have questions, you can shoot me a ping through LinkedIn, and you can ask me a random question. But it's a safe space, because if it's not a good connection, I'll send it back and I'll tell you how to fix it, and then we'll practice. But in that case, you're practicing with someone you don't know in a safe space so that you can learn how to do it right. Any questions on that?
We do have a couple questions in the chat. Both Cameron and Magdalena are curious as to where they can find the Alumni Connection tool for DePaul.
Sure. If you search for DePaul University, when you pull up their page, there should be an alumni button in there. If not, we could find it at the end of this, or I can send information later.
Great. Those were the only questions.
Sure. Any other questions about connecting or things like that? And I will say, be thoughtful about who you're trying to connect with, but don't be afraid. So what I would say is, don't reach out to the CEO of the company if you don't have a direct connection, right? But if someone that someone you took a class with works at a company you're interested in, reach out, see what happens. The worst they could do is ignore you. The best they could do is take your call, and then maybe you have an in now at the company. So you want to make sure that you're using the connections wisely.
Another question in from Cameron. Do you have any tips for connecting with recruiters or HR professionals?
Sure. So on your profile, when you are deciding to look for work, you can go in and put a banner around your profile picture that says open to work. And if you do that, a green banner will show up around your profile picture that will instantly tell the world that you're looking for work, as well as recruiters and HR professionals. I would also go into your privacy settings and make sure you turn it on so recruiters can see your profile. And make sure that your skills match as closely as possible to the job descriptions you're looking for, that you're applying for. Within LinkedIn, there is something called Skills Match you could do. Simply just Google Skills Match LinkedIn. It'll show you how to do it. What it'll do is it'll compare your profile to the profiles of everyone else applying for said job and tell you how you compare. Typically, out of 10 skills, you want to be within the 8 to 10 range. Usually you come back in the 3 to 5 range. So typically what you do then is you say, what skills am I missing? Did I simply just forget to put them on my profile because I overlooked them? Or do I not have them? And then I go to LinkedIn Learning and I take those skills and I take those courses and then I put those skills on my profile. That's going to be the best way to get, top of mind in terms of AI searches, as well as top of mind with the banner around there. So in terms of preparing for job interviews, now that we've built a profile and we've started applying, we want to browse the job descriptions and we want to learn about the companies. When we browse for job descriptions in companies, what we're going to find is a lot about company culture. Is this a place I want to work? My values match with their values, which is really important. You're going to see what the job descriptions are. You're going to see those keywords and all the skills that are needed. In most cases, there'll probably be an apply button right through LinkedIn to use the LinkedIn app, which is pretty good, which will just send your profile right in. And then you're going to see a foot in the door. These are people that you might have connections with at the company that you might not have thought about. Right out of college, it's going to be pretty hard to not know where people are at. You're going to know where people are working. 3 years out of college, you're not going to realize that your roommate now works at a new company. And that's the company you're starting to look at. But LinkedIn knows. And so LinkedIn's going to tell you, hey, did you know that these 8 people, Bob Dean being number 1, you know him. Maybe you should reach out to him and connect with him to see about this particular company. And you can easily message him there. Hey, Bob, remember we were together when we were student workers in IS. I see that you're in software engineering now at Freshing. I'm interested in applying there. Got 10 minutes to talk about the company and see if I'd be a good fit. It's a great way to build that connection then. Fun note, I actually applied for my job at LinkedIn through the LinkedIn app. So they do work. So don't forget that. Keep that in mind. Let's see. Let's get out of here. Job alerts. So finding a job is hard, and it's a job in and of itself a lot of times. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure you're making all the systems work for you. So on LinkedIn, you can set up job alerts based on companies, job descriptions, job titles, even locations. Set up the job alerts for 2 reasons. 1, it makes it easier for you. 2, as soon as a job that matches any of your search criteria shows up, you're going to get notified on your phone. And the reason you want to do that is that when companies post job descriptions, if they're top employers, these are the places everybody wants to work. they're going to get a lot of applications pretty quickly. And if you're only looking once a day and you're only looking at night and the job was posted in the morning, that job may have been pulled down by now by the time you get there because they've already gotten thousands of applicants. So you want to make sure you're getting those job alerts and those notifications so you can take that 2 minutes in the morning and be like, yep, I definitely want to apply for that job. And you apply right then and there. You want to be top of mind. You want to be amongst the first group of applicants so that you're reviewed. Because when top employers put something out there and they get thousands of people applying, they'll shut it off because they have to source through those couple thousand that they've already gotten. So you might not even have known there was a job there. So be sure to set up the job alerts. It takes all of a few minutes. And if they're not working how you want, go and tweak it. Maybe, you thought you wanted project management and what it's leveraging isn't what you were thinking. You can go back and change the search, change the search variables and determine, okay, maybe that wasn't a company I wanted to work at. I did more research. I don't like them anymore. Change the search variables. Make sure that the search is constantly up to date for you. Lastly, leveraging LinkedIn, the main feed. So I talked a lot about your profile, which is the page about you. When you first log into LinkedIn, though, you have your news feed. This is where all the posts from everyone you're following is at. You want to make that feed work for you so that you're getting top of mind information that's going to make it easier for you to prepare for interviews. So you want to follow 3 different things. Companies that you want to work for. So say Microsoft is a top company, Google's a top company, follow them. That's going to provide you any information about the company that the company's posting. For example, Microsoft, our CEO Satya, he posts quite a bit about what's going on in the company. So if you didn't know, LinkedIn is a Microsoft company. So he posts all the time about what's going on in the company, top of mind, so I know what's going on. Follow influencers. These are people who, when they talk, everyone else is talking. And again, we're going to think more about professional influencers. So we're thinking more of the Elon Musks, the Warren Buffetts, the Bill Gates of the world. When they're talking about a topic, that means it's pretty much a disruptor or a top of mind topic for all industries. So we want to know what they're talking about. And then lastly, follow industries. Say you want to go into car manufacturing, follow that as an industry. Maybe you want to go into higher education so that you're getting top of mind information about not only the companies you want to work at and the people who are talking about it, but what are the industries talking about? So for example, you're going into car manufacturing. A lot of states have passed that you can't sell gas cars anymore after a certain date. That's a disruptor. How does that work? What is that going to look like? You want to know what the companies are talking about so you can be informed when you go and show up for those interviews. Or if you're going to be an entrepreneur, investor meetings. Follow the people who are going to fund you so that you understand what they're passionate about so you can align your passions with them. Here's that profile again. I'm going to go ahead and I'll grab I'll grab this at the end. Here's the link for LinkedIn Learning. You want to go ahead and make sure that sorry, it's launching a new page for me. There we go. You want to make sure you're activating that account and you're leveraging at the university. It is free. If you have to go LinkedIn Premium upon graduation, you have to pay for that. You want to make sure you're leveraging what DePaul is giving you. Go in, check out LinkedIn Learning. Couple quick benefits of connecting your account. I talked earlier, you can post your certificates of completion and your skills from your courses right to your LinkedIn profile. Additionally, you're going to get more personalized recommendations when you go into the system, and it's going to start learning what you're interested in. You can now set a career goal within LinkedIn Learning. So say you want to be a software engineer, you could set that career goal, and it's going to start recommending content that it thinks that you should know based on what other people are learning in the industry. So for example, you put in software engineering, it's going to start recommending the top coding languages that you should be learning, as well as other skills that you should be learning in that particular field. Lastly, I just have some recommendations. So a couple quick courses on LinkedIn, LinkedIn for Students, Job Hunting for College Grads, Publishing. We didn't get too much into thought leadership, but when you're on LinkedIn, you could start doing your thought leadership by publishing and sharing different articles or things that are top of mind. You can actually just share, you could just do a post, or you can actually write an article. A post is like a share of a website or share of an article and like, hey, this I think is important because. An article is actually something more in depth. You take more time to write that out. And if you take this course on publishing, it'll talk you through that. Informational interviewing and elevator pitch are always my top ones as well. If you have questions on LinkedIn, our help center is amazing. We have articles on how to manage your public profile, how to update your privacy settings. So there was that recruiter question, how to turn it on so that recruiters can find you. Creating your profile in another language. So if you're looking to go overseas, you can actually translate it into another language, as well as information about the premium subscription upon graduation. Lastly, I have 3 5-minute asks. If you do nothing else today after this and you just go get lunch, 5 minutes of self-reflection. What jobs are you looking for, and find 3 job descriptions so you could read this weekend. Activate your LinkedIn Learning account. Make sure that that's active and you understand how to get there and how to log in. You should be using your Campus Connect credentials to log in, so you shouldn't have any problems with that. Lastly, update at least one thing on your profile, even if it's just going in and making sure you have 5 skills. Start with something and then plan out how you want to build out your profile. And that is going to be the end of what I have to say today. I'm going to start sharing and see if there are any questions.
Great. I think we do have a couple questions that came in there.
Sure.
Magdalene is wondering how we should approach listing job experiences. Should we be listing everything or tailoring it? And if tailoring, how to best go about that?
Okay, so it depends on where you're at in your career. And so this is a living document. I would say as a student, you would list any professional experience that you can somehow tie directly with skills that make you a good candidate for what you're looking for. You want to have at least 2 to 4 on there. So as you move into your professional career, you might 3 years into your professional career be able to drop off your high school, your high school job. So if you look at mine only goes back through my professional career when I started. I don't have any, things that I did, pre-college. But for now, I would put anything in there that you could somehow directly tie to what you're looking for in terms of skills. And then as you move forward, you make that decision of what makes the most sense. Now, like I said, halfway through your career, if you're looking to rechange, say you were in project management, now you want to become a software programmer, you want to go back and rewrite your profile so that your past experience is making you a good software programmer. Those are going to be different skills, different keywords. A lot of it's still transferable from your project management days, but you want to make sure that you're showing how your project management experience made you right to become a software engineer or software developer.
And I think the only other question, it looks like you answered, was if the LinkedIn profile is not using their DePaul email address, they can still use LinkedIn Learning because they're going to be using Campus Connect.
Absolutely. So what's going to happen is when you log into campus, when you log into that link, and in fact, let me drop that link in the chat real quick while I think of it. Let me go ahead and grab it. And I can't do 2 things at once. My brain doesn't work that way. So let me grab that link first. And I apologize if this comes off really large, because sometimes when I copy and paste into Zoom, it does. But let me drop this in the chat. Okay, it worked. Perfect. So there's your link. Thank you. And so here's your link. And what you're going to do is it's going to ask you to log in with your Campus Connect credentials. It's then going to ask if you want to connect your LinkedIn.com to your LinkedIn Learning. When you say yes, it's going to ask you for your LinkedIn.com credentials, which will probably be different, and they won't be your DePaul email. And that's fine. You just say yes, you want to connect them, you log into both, and it's going to make that bridge and connection for you.
Great.
And then I did pull up. Are there any more questions? I'm going to share my screen again.
Those are all the questions that we have.
Okay. I mentioned earlier, I'm going to show you how to change your URL. So this is my profile. So Christine Gramlich. You notice I have in parentheses, that's my surname. That was my maiden name. I put that in there because I earned my degrees under that name. So people I went to school might be searching for Christine Knox instead of Christine Gramlich. Feel free to do that if you want. It's a personal choice. That's the great thing about your profile. So I'm going to go into my profile, and then I'm going to go over here on the right, and it's going to say edit public profile and URL. And if I click on that, it's going to take me into my edit mode, and it's going to say here, personalize the URL for your profile. Now, typically, if you are lucky, you might just have /in/your name. But if you have a very common name, you're going to have some numbers and letters and weirdness at the end. You want to clean that up. If you have a common name, then you're going to look for middle initial, middle name, something like that. If you do get to the point where your name is so common and you need numbers at the end, 1 or 2 numbers, but nothing crazy. And the reason is you want it to look clean, just like you want your resume to look clean. It's like when you put your resume on the hard paper, the nice, paper if you're going to mail in resumes. I'm dating myself. But you want to use the clean version of that URL. It just shows the recruiters you took an extra 2 minutes to clean up your profile and just make it your own. Again, here, this is my profile. So you'll see that if I had open to work, it would show around my particular banner picture. So this is where we're at with the editing. I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I'm just going to go ahead and show you one more thing. I'm going to go back into my main profile. You'll see here I've added my pronouns. This is where they show up. This little kind of like speaker that shows that I've recorded my name. So if you clicked on it, you would hear me saying my name. If I wanted to change it to open to work, if I click on open to, there's a couple choices. Finding a new job, that's going to be open to work. That's going to say open to work around it. If you're open, providing services or hiring, you could put open to hiring, like I'm looking to hire people, so people know to reach out to you. Also, if you'll scroll down, you'll see here that I have a featured section. We didn't talk about this, but this is something you could build out. A featured section highlights smart media that you might be proud of or something that you worked on. So in this particular case, I have case studies about the clients that I've worked with in the past that have been published through LinkedIn. I highlighted those case studies. In addition, if you scroll down through my experience, you'll see that I put media into my experience as well. When I worked at DePaul University, I actually was in charge of creating media. So these are some of the products that we produced in-house to show production skills. From LinkedIn, I put some things that talk about LinkedIn Learning that highlight what I currently do at the job. And then you'll see here with my experiences as I go through, some are bullet pointed and some are just written in text. So, and even the bullet points are pretty long. So the nice thing is if you already have a resume, you can leverage your resume and just copy and paste it into here and then just manipulate it how you want.
A couple more questions in the
Sure.
chat. One, the link that you shared seems to be giving folks an error message.
Okay.
So if that's even something you can follow up with me, I can include it in
Sure.
the email afterwards. And then Kisha asks, I am pursuing my master's degree full-time since my layoff in 2002. Would listing school projects be helpful to get around the gap in work history? And she puts in parentheses, the kiss of death.
So a couple things. The gap in work history has in the past had a pretty negative connotation. That is changing.
Mhm.
So there are ways to outline gaps in work history on LinkedIn. So for example, we have ones about like parental leave and things like that. You can actually put that in now to your professional experience to explain a gap. What I would say is in your professional experience to explain that gap, I would put student in the professional experience and then highlight what you're working on within your particular degrees. Also, too, if they see a gap and they go down to your experience, those dates for this, your education and your gap are going to line up. But I would say that nowadays, that gap isn't as bad as it was, say, 5 years ago. Like I would say 5-10 years ago, a gap like that would be kind of frowned upon. Now people know that people are even just taking gaps to take time off.
Mhm.
Sometimes because they chose it, sometimes because they didn't. But I would highlight, if there's a gap in your professional experience, I put in their student, master's degree students, and explain, your projects in there to identify that gap.
And Kisha says, thank you. Yeah, I think that's a really great perspective. I think culturally we're shifting the way we think about taking time off or making pivots and changes. So it's really interesting. All right, so it looks like we're just about out of time. I do want to share on behalf of the Career Center that we want to welcome everyone to use all of our services. One of the things I'm putting into the chat right there is a link to a page on our site. One of the neat things about that is that you can submit your LinkedIn profile or your resume or a cover letter and for an asynchronous critique. So if you're really busy, can't make it into the office, you submit it there, and within about 4 or 5 business days, we'll respond with a video review of somebody reviewing your submission and giving you some advice that way. I also encourage you all to become connected with DePaul's career communities. That's how our advising is structured, and it's an opportunity for you to access the resources that best align with your interests. And if that's something that you're interested in seeing more about, I'm going to drop a second link into the chat there so you can read about the different career communities we have in addition to our more exploration focused advising. Okay. Oh, and Christine was able to update our link, and that does seem to work. Goes right to the DePaul
Perfect.
page. So thank you so much.
Definitely.
Again, I want to thank Christine for her time and her expertise. This has been fantastic. I appreciate you giving back to the DePaul community and staying
Absolutely.
involved with us.
And I will +1 to the career services. Definitely take advantage of them when I was a student there. I definitely did. They're a great in-house, service area. And then if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you have any specific LinkedIn or LinkedIn learning questions, always happy to help. And then just a shout out, to the person who was let go and is in that process of getting their education. Been there, done that. I left DePaul University during a downsizing. And so I understand what that's like to leave and then try to figure things out. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. I did end up here. So that's, a success story. But if you have any questions about that transition as well, I'm happy to talk you through any questions you might have about that too. So having lived through it, it's a crazy time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us. As I mentioned at the top of the workshop, we will receive this via email in the next couple of days once it's processed, so that you can review all of this wonderful advice again and reference it as you need to. So thank you again, everyone, and have a great afternoon.